Picture this. The battle is lost. Imperial forces are surrounded, outnumbered, facing annihilation. Hope has died with the last of their leaders. The enemy closes in for the final slaughter. Then, from nowhere, flames begin to dance in the darkness. Skeletal figures in blackened power armor materialize from thin air, their bones wreathed in fire, their weapons blazing with supernatural fury. They are the Legion of the Damned, space marines who died in service to the Emperor and returned as something far more terrifying than they ever were in life. But here's what makes them truly haunting. They are not chaos spawn or daemon manifestations. They serve the Emperor's will with the same devotion they showed in life, but their loyalty has been purified by death itself. They are vengeance incarnate, divine wrath given skeletal form, proof that the Emperor's justice extends beyond the grave. These spectral warriors appear when hope seems lost, fight battles that cannot be won, and vanish into flame when their purpose is complete. They are the stuff of legend and nightmare both, angels of death who serve the cause of life, ghosts who fight for the living, damned souls who have found their salvation in eternal service. Welcome back to the Lorelord, where today we're exploring one of the most mysterious and terrifying phenomena in Warhammer 40,000. This is the story of space marines who transcended death itself, of warriors whose loyalty burned so bright that it survived the destruction of their flesh, and of the price of service that goes beyond mortality into something that might be salvation or damnation, or both. To understand the Legion of the Damned, we must first confront the central mystery of their existence. Who were these warriors before they became spectral avengers? The truth is that no one knows for certain, and the various theories paint very different pictures of what transforms loyal space marines into undying revenants. The most widely accepted theory connects the Legion to the Firehawks chapter, a second founding successor of the Ultramarines, who vanished during a routine deployment in M41. The Firehawks were conducting operations in the Ghoul Stars when they encountered a massive warp storm that swallowed their entire fleet. When the storm cleared, the chapter had vanished without a trace. Every ship, every battle brother, every piece of equipment simply gone. But here's where the story becomes truly mysterious. Shortly after the Firehawks' disappearance, Imperial forces across the galaxy began reporting encounters with spectral space marines who bore uncanny resemblances to the lost chapter. These ghostly warriors appeared at moments of desperate need, fought with supernatural fury, and displayed tactical doctrines that matched Firehawks' combat records perfectly. The connection seems obvious, but it raises more questions than it answers. If the Firehawks became the Legion of the Damned, what exactly happened to them in that warp storm? Did they die and return as ghosts? Were they transformed by exposure to energies beyond human understanding? Or did something else, something far stranger, occur during their disappearance? Recent Imperial records contain fragmentary reports that suggest the transformation might not have been instantaneous. Some sources describe encounters with Firehawks' battle brothers who appeared to be partially transformed, still alive, but showing signs of the spectral nature that would define the Legion. These accounts paint a picture of gradual transformation rather than sudden death and resurrection. The implications are disturbing. If the transformation from living space marine to spectral warrior is gradual, it suggests that the Legion of the Damned are not simply the dead returned to life, but something more complex, beings caught between life and death, existing in a state that transcends normal mortality while retaining their essential nature as servants of the Emperor. Understanding what the Legion of the Damned have become requires grappling with phenomena that exist at the intersection of faith, death, and supernatural force. They are not simply dead space marines, animated by some external power. They are something entirely new, beings whose nature challenges every assumption about life, death, and the continuity of consciousness. Physically, the Legion manifests as skeletal warriors wreathed in spectral flame. Their armor appears blackened and corroded, as if by intense heat or corrosive forces, yet it functions perfectly. Their weapons bear similar signs of supernatural transformation, glowing with inner fire that seems to burn without consuming. Most unnervingly, their bones are visible through gaps in their armor, wreathed in flames that neither provide warmth nor cause pain. But the physical manifestation is only the beginning. The Legion demonstrates capabilities that go far beyond what any living space marine could achieve. They can appear and vanish at will, seemingly teleporting across vast distances without mechanical aid. They are immune to conventional weapons. Bolter rounds pass through them harmlessly. Energy beams have no effect. Even melee weapons seem to do no damage unless wielded by beings with spiritual authority. Perhaps most significantly, they appear to exist outside normal time and space. Reports describe Legion warriors arriving at battles before distress calls have been sent, appearing simultaneously at multiple locations thousands of light years apart, and demonstrating knowledge of events that haven't yet occurred. This suggests that their transformation involved more than simply dying and returning. They appear to have transcended the normal limitations of physical existence while retaining their identity and purpose as space marines. They have become something that exists partially in the material universe and partially in whatever realm lies beyond death. The Legion of the Damned doesn't appear randomly or at the whim of chance. Analysis of their manifestations reveals clear patterns that suggest their appearances are guided by principles that, while not fully understood, are definitely consistent and purposeful. The primary trigger for Legion manifestation appears to be desperate need combined with righteous cause. They appear when Imperial forces face overwhelming odds in defense of innocent lives, when Space Marine chapters face extinction while serving the Emperor's will, when critical Imperial assets are threatened by forces that conventional military response cannot address. Notably, the Legion does not appear to assist forces whose cause is questionable or whose methods contradict Imperial values. They have never been reported aiding corrupt officials, supporting unjust wars, or intervening in conflicts where Imperial forces are clearly in the wrong. This suggests that their manifestation is guided by moral judgment rather than simple loyalty to Imperial authority. The timing of their appearances also follows patterns that suggest supernatural awareness. Legion warriors often arrive at precisely the moment when their intervention will have maximum impact. Not so early that conventional forces could handle the situation, not so late that intervention would be meaningless. This perfect timing implies either precognitive abilities or guidance from sources that can perceive future events. Geographically, the Legion appears most frequently in sectors associated with significant chaos activity or major threats to Imperial civilians. They seem drawn to conflicts where the spiritual stakes are highest, rather than those where the material consequences are greatest. This focus on spiritual warfare suggests that their purpose transcends simple military objectives. Perhaps most intriguingly, the Legion appears to manifest more frequently during periods of galactic crisis. Their activity increased during the 13th Black Crusade, the Tyranid invasions, and other major threats to Imperial stability. This pattern suggests that their manifestations are connected to some form of cosmic balance. They appear when the forces of darkness threaten to overwhelm the light. The Legion of the Damned fights with a tactical doctrine that combines the best elements of Space Marine warfare with supernatural capabilities that no living force could replicate. Their approach to combat reveals much about their nature and purpose, demonstrating how death has refined rather than diminished their effectiveness as warriors. In battle, the Legion exhibits perfect coordination, despite having no visible command structure. They move as a single entity, each warrior knowing exactly what their brothers will do without any apparent communication. This coordination exceeds even the legendary discipline of the best Space Marine chapters, suggesting that death has created connections between Legion warriors that transcend normal military training. Their supernatural abilities are integrated seamlessly into conventional Space Marine tactics. They use their teleportation capabilities for flanking maneuvers that would be impossible for normal forces. Their immunity to conventional weapons allows them to advance through killing fields that would stop any living army. Their spectral nature enables reconnaissance and infiltration that no physical force could achieve. But perhaps most importantly, the Legion fights with absolute fearlessness that goes beyond the courage of living Space Marines. They show no concern for casualties because they cannot truly be killed. They take risks that no commander would ask of living troops because death holds no terror for beings who have already experienced it. This fearlessness enables tactical choices that would be suicidal for normal forces, but prove devastatingly effective for spectral warriors. The Legion's weapons appear to be enhanced by their supernatural nature. Reports describe bolter rounds that never miss their targets, chain swords that cut through enemy armor like paper, and flamers that burn with fires hot enough to melt adamantium. Whether these effects result from supernatural enhancement of existing weapons or manifestation of entirely new capabilities remains unclear. Most significantly, the Legion demonstrates perfect knowledge of enemy weaknesses and optimal tactical responses. They seem to understand their enemy's capabilities, intentions, and vulnerabilities without any apparent intelligence gathering. This knowledge allows them to achieve decisive victories against forces that should be able to overwhelm them through sheer numbers. While the Legion of the Damned operates as a unified force, individual warriors within their ranks occasionally demonstrate characteristics that suggest retained personality and individual consciousness. These glimpses of personal identity within the collective provide crucial insights into what it means to exist as one of the damned. The most documented case involves a warrior identified as Sergeant Centurius, who appears to hold a leadership position within the Legion, despite their apparent lack of formal hierarchy. Centurius has been reported at multiple Legion manifestations across several centuries, always recognizable by distinctive markings on his armor and a particular fighting style that witnesses describe as coldly methodical. What makes Centurius significant is that he appears to retain memories and personality traits that connect him to his pre-transformation existence. Witnesses report that he demonstrates tactical preferences consistent with Firehawk's doctrine, responds to certain battle cries and litanies that were specific to that chapter, and even bears what appear to be personal heraldry that matches Firehawk's records. But Centurius also demonstrates characteristics that clearly mark him as transformed rather than simply returned from death. His tactical decisions show perfect awareness of supernatural elements that no living Space Marine could perceive. His leadership style involves coordination methods that transcend normal communication. Most unnervingly, He appears to age backward in some reports. Early sightings describe him as bearing signs of centuries of warfare, while recent encounters show him appearing as he might have looked as a young sergeant. Other individual Legion warriors show similar patterns of retained identity combined with supernatural enhancement. Some bear personal honors and decorations that can be traced to specific battles and achievements. Others demonstrate combat specializations that match known Space Marine disciplines, but enhanced beyond anything a living warrior could achieve. These individual stories suggest that transformation into the Legion of the Damned preserves rather than erases personal identity. The warriors maintain their essential selves while transcending the limitations of mortality. They remain who they were while becoming something more than they could ever have been in life. The existence of the Legion of the Damned creates profound theological challenges for Imperial doctrine, forcing the ecclesiarchy to grapple with questions about the nature of death, resurrection, and divine intervention that have no easy answers within Orthodox Imperial faith. The most obvious interpretation holds that the Legion represents direct divine intervention, the Emperor's will made manifest through the transformation of loyal Space Marines into instruments of supernatural vengeance. According to this view, the Legion serves as proof that the Emperor's power extends beyond death itself, that loyalty sufficient to transcend mortality will be rewarded with eternal service in his name. This interpretation fits comfortably within Imperial doctrine, but raises troubling questions about why such intervention is so rare. If the Emperor can transform dead Space Marines into spectral warriors, why doesn't he do so more frequently? What makes some fallen warriors worthy of such transformation, while others remain permanently dead? Alternative theological frameworks propose more complex explanations. Some scholars suggest that the Legion represents not direct divine intervention, but rather the natural result of faith, so pure that it transcends physical limitations. According to this view, the Firehawks' transformation occurred because their devotion to the Emperor was strong enough to survive the destruction of their flesh. The most controversial interpretation suggests that the Legion might not be divine in origin at all, but rather a warp phenomenon that happens to serve Imperial interests. This theory proposes that exposure to certain forms of warp energy can preserve consciousness after death, creating spectral beings whose loyalty reflects their pre-death convictions rather than divine selection. Each interpretation has different implications for how the Legion should be received by Imperial forces and what their existence means for Imperial theology. If they represent divine intervention, they deserve veneration and support. If they result from natural phenomena, they should be studied and potentially replicated. If they represent warp corruption, they might be dangerous despite their apparent loyalty. Imperial records contain numerous first-hand accounts from military personnel who have fought alongside the Legion of the Damned, providing crucial insights into what it's like to serve alongside spectral warriors and how their presence affects living troops. Captain Marcus Reynold of the Salamander's 3rd Company provides one of the most detailed accounts of Legion intervention during the siege of Tartarus IV. According to his report, the Legion materialized during the final assault when his forces were pinned down by overwhelming enemy fire. The spectral warriors advanced through the killing field without taking cover, their supernatural immunity allowing them to close with the enemy, despite weapons fire that would have annihilated any living force. Reynold describes the psychological impact of fighting alongside the Legion as profoundly disturbing, yet strangely inspiring. The sight of skeletal warriors wreathed in flame created initial fear among his troops, but their obvious dedication to the Emperor's cause and their perfect integration with Imperial tactical doctrine quickly converted fear into awe. Most significantly, Reynolds reports that the Legion warriors communicated with living Imperial forces through methods that transcended normal speech. Commands and tactical information seemed to appear directly in the minds of Imperial officers, allowing perfect coordination between living and spectral forces without any visible communication. Sister Superior Magdalena of the Order of the Sacred Rose provides another perspective from the perspective of the Adepta Sororitas. Her encounter with the Legion during the Purge of Gehenna describes spectral warriors who demonstrated perfect understanding of Imperial faith and doctrine, reciting litanies and battle prayers with voices that seemed to echo from beyond death itself. What emerges from these accounts is a picture of beings who retain their essential nature as space marines while transcending normal physical limitations. They fight with the same discipline, courage, and tactical acumen they possessed in life, but enhanced by supernatural abilities and freed from the constraints of mortality. Perhaps most importantly, these testimonies consistently describe the Legion as inspiring rather than terrifying to those who fight alongside them. Their presence seems to strengthen the faith and resolve of Imperial forces, creating a morale effect that goes beyond simple military assistance. One of the most mysterious aspects of Legion manifestations is their departure. Unlike conventional military forces that withdraw through normal movement, the Legion simply vanishes when their mission is complete, disappearing as suddenly and mysteriously as they arrived. Witnesses describe various forms of departure, all of which emphasize the supernatural nature of the Legion's existence. Some report that the spectral warriors simply fade away, becoming increasingly translucent until they disappear entirely. Others describe them walking into flames that consume them without causing apparent harm. Most dramatically, some accounts describe the entire Legion dissolving into motes of light that disperse into the air. The timing of these departures appears to be precisely calibrated to the completion of their mission objective. The Legion doesn't linger after achieving victory, nor do they leave before their intervention has achieved its intended effect. This precision suggests that their manifestations are guided by purposes that go beyond simple military objectives. What makes these departures particularly intriguing is that they often occur just as Imperial reinforcements arrive, or when the immediate crisis has passed. The Legion seems to operate according to principles that emphasize minimal intervention rather than maximum impact. They appear when they're needed and disappear when they're no longer necessary. Some witnesses report that Legion warriors appear to bid farewell to Imperial forces before departing, offering salutes or other gestures of respect that acknowledge their temporary comradeship with living troops. These gestures suggest retained humanity and social awareness rather than mechanical fulfillment of programmed objectives. The destination of departing Legion warriors remains completely unknown. No Imperial force has ever successfully tracked them to their origin point, or discovered where they go when not manifesting for battle. They appear to exist in some realm that intersects with normal space-time only when their intervention is required. Some of the most significant Legion of the Damned manifestations have occurred during major chaos incursions, particularly the various Black Crusades launched by Abaddon the Despoiler. These encounters provide crucial insights into the Legion's relationship with Chaos forces and their role in the broader cosmic struggle between order and darkness. During the 13th Black Crusade, Legion forces appeared at multiple critical battles across the Cadian sector. Their interventions consistently occurred at moments when Chaos forces seemed poised to achieve decisive victories that would have broken Imperial resistance entirely. The precision of these manifestations suggests either prophetic awareness of chaos strategy or guidance from sources that could perceive the Black Crusade's ultimate objectives. What makes these interventions particularly significant is the apparent immunity of Legion warriors to chaos corruption. Demon weapons that should have been capable of destroying any Imperial force proved ineffective against spectral armor. Chaos sorcery that typically overwhelms even Space Marine resistance had no apparent effect on Legion consciousness. Most importantly, the presence of greater demons and demon princes, beings whose very existence can corrupt nearby Imperial forces, seemed to have no impact on Legion loyalty or effectiveness. This resistance to chaos influence suggests that the Legion's transformation involved more than simple preservation of consciousness after death. They appear to have achieved a state of spiritual purity that makes them immune to the corruption that threatens all living beings in the 40K universe. The tactical approach of Legion forces during chaos encounters also differs subtly from their behavior against other enemies. Against Xenos threats, they fight with efficient ruthlessness. Against chaos forces, they demonstrate what witnesses describe as righteous fury, a level of aggression that suggests personal hatred for the enemies of the Emperor. Some accounts describe Legion warriors specifically targeting chaos leaders and champions, as if their supernatural awareness allows them to identify the most spiritually dangerous enemies rather than simply the most tactically significant threats. This focus on spiritual warfare reinforces the interpretation of the Legion as agents of divine will rather than simple military assets. The opening of the Great Rift and the dramatic changes it brought to the galaxy appear to have affected Legion of the Damned activity in ways that suggest their manifestations are connected to the broader balance of cosmic forces. Reports of Legion interventions have increased dramatically since the Rift's opening, with sightings occurring across both sides of the galactic divide. What makes these modern manifestations particularly intriguing is their apparent coordination with other Imperial forces. Unlike previous eras when the Legion operated independently of official military command, recent reports describe spectral warriors working in apparent cooperation with Primaris Space Marines, custodian forces, and even elements of the returning Robout Guilliman's command structure. This coordination suggests either evolution in Legion capabilities or changes in Imperial doctrine that allow for better integration of supernatural assets with conventional forces. Some reports describe Imperial commanders receiving what appear to be strategic guidance from Legion sources, though the mechanism for such communication remains unclear. The geographic distribution of modern Legion sightings also shows interesting patterns. They appear more frequently in sectors where the warp/real space boundary has been destabilized by the Great Rift, suggesting that the cosmic disruption might make their manifestation easier or more necessary. Perhaps most significantly, several reports describe Legion forces appearing in defensive rather than offensive roles, protecting Imperial worlds from chaos incursion rather than spearheading attacks against enemy positions. This shift in operational focus might reflect changing galactic conditions or evolution in the Legion's mission parameters. Some of the most credible modern sightings come from Ultramarines forces operating under Guilliman's direct command. These reports describe Legion interventions that appear to be coordinated with Primarch-level strategic planning, suggesting that the returned Primarch either understands the Legion's nature or has developed methods for communicating with spectral forces. Theories of transformation: how the living become the damned. The question of how exactly the Firehawks became the Legion of the Damned has spawned numerous theories, each of which implies different things about the nature of death, consciousness, and divine intervention in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. The divine selection theory proposes that the Emperor personally chose the Firehawks for transformation, recognizing in them qualities that made them suitable for eternal service as spectral warriors. According to this theory, their disappearance in the warp storm was orchestrated by divine will, and their transformation represents a reward for exceptional loyalty and courage. This theory explains the Legion's perfect loyalty and supernatural abilities as direct gifts from the Emperor, but it raises questions about why such transformation is so rare and what criteria determine divine selection. The warp preservation theory suggests that the Firehawks were caught in a specific type of warp phenomenon that preserved their consciousness while destroying their physical forms. According to this view, their spectral nature results from existing partially in the warp while retaining connection to the material universe. This theory would explain their supernatural abilities and apparent immunity to conventional weapons, but it raises questions about why exposure to the warp typically results in corruption rather than purification. The faith transcendence theory proposes that the Firehawks' transformation occurred because their faith in the Emperor was strong enough to transcend physical death. According to this interpretation, any Space Marine with sufficient devotion could theoretically achieve similar transformation under the right circumstances. If true, this theory suggests that the Legion represents humanity's potential for spiritual evolution rather than unique divine intervention. The temporal displacement theory offers the most radical interpretation, suggesting that the Firehawks weren't transformed at all, but rather displaced in time. According to this view, they continue to exist in their original form, but operate from a temporal position that allows them to manifest at any point in galactic history. This would explain their perfect tactical knowledge and their ability to appear at precisely the right moments, but it requires accepting time travel as a normal consequence of warp exposure. The question of numbers. How many damned walk among us? One of the most intriguing mysteries surrounding the Legion of the Damned concerns their numbers. If they originated from the Firehawks chapter, they should theoretically include roughly 1,000 warriors. But reports of Legion activity span centuries and describe simultaneous manifestations at multiple locations across the galaxy, suggesting either far greater numbers or capabilities that transcend normal limitations of presence and time. Some scholars theorize that the Legion's numbers have grown since the original transformation, incorporating other Space Marines who died under similar circumstances or who achieved sufficient spiritual purity to join their ranks. This would explain reports of Legion warriors bearing heraldry from chapters other than the Firehawks. Alternative theories propose that Legion warriors exist outside normal space-time in ways that allow individual members to manifest at multiple locations simultaneously. This would explain how relatively small numbers could appear to be everywhere at once. The most disturbing possibility is that Legion numbers are actually declining over time, with spectral warriors being permanently destroyed through exposure to certain types of enemy action or gradually fading as their connection to the material universe weakens. If true, this would make each Legion manifestation increasingly precious, and their eventual extinction a possibility. Recent reports suggest that Legion numbers might actually be increasing, with new spectral warriors bearing fresh marks of recent death. If accurate, this would indicate ongoing recruitment from recently fallen Space Marines, rather than a static population of transformed Firehawks. The equipment used by Legion of the Damned warriors provides another window into understanding their supernatural nature. Their weapons and armor retain the basic forms familiar to all Space Marines, but demonstrate capabilities that far exceed normal Imperial technology. Legion bolters fire rounds that seem to seek their targets with supernatural accuracy, adjusting course mid-flight to strike vital points that normal ammunition could never reach. Their chainswords cut through enemy armor with ease that suggests the weapons exist partially outside normal physical laws, interacting with matter on levels that transcend simple mechanical action. Perhaps most significantly, Legion weapons appear to be particularly effective against chaos-corrupted targets. Demons that should be immune to conventional weapons suffer grievous damage from Legion fire. Chaos Marines whose armor has been blessed by dark powers find their protection worthless against spectral assault. The flames that surround Legion warriors and their equipment serve multiple purposes beyond simple intimidation. These fires provide illumination that reveals hidden enemies, burn away chaos corruption that would affect normal Imperial forces, and appear to cause spiritual as well as physical damage to opponents. Legion armor demonstrates similar supernatural enhancement. It provides protection that exceeds even Terminator plate while maintaining the mobility of standard power armor. Damage taken during battle seems to repair itself between manifestations, suggesting that spectral equipment operates according to principles that transcend normal material science. Most intriguingly, some reports describe Legion warriors wielding weapons that don't match any known Imperial pattern, equipment that appears to be manifestations of their will rather than physical objects. These spiritual weapons suggest that the Legion's transformation includes the ability to create tools through faith and determination rather than technology. The name Legion of the Damned raises profound questions about the nature of their existence and what their transformation represents. Are they blessed servants of the Emperor who have achieved a form of immortal service? Or are they damned souls trapped between life and death, forever denied the peace of true rest? The evidence supports both interpretations. Their perfect loyalty and supernatural abilities suggest divine blessing and elevation to a higher form of existence. But their skeletal appearance and the circumstances of their manifestation imply suffering and loss that might constitute a form of damnation. Some theological scholars propose that the Legion represents both salvation and damnation simultaneously. They are damned in the sense that they can never know peace or rest, but saved in the sense that their damnation serves the ultimate purpose of protecting humanity from forces that would destroy everything worth preserving. This interpretation suggests that the Legion's existence represents the ultimate expression of Space Marine dedication, warriors so committed to their duty that they willingly accept eternal service rather than the peace of death. Their damnation becomes their salvation because it allows them to continue serving the Emperor beyond the limitations of mortal existence. Alternative interpretations propose that the Legion's transformation represents not punishment, but reward, that they have achieved a form of existence that transcends normal mortality while retaining their essential identity and purpose. According to this view, their apparent suffering is actually a form of purification that burns away everything except their dedication to the Emperor's cause. The question may ultimately be unanswerable because it requires understanding forms of existence that transcend normal human experience. The Legion themselves give no indication of how they view their transformation. They simply serve, fight, and vanish, leaving others to debate the meaning of their existence. The Legion of the Damned stands as one of the most mysterious and awe-inspiring phenomena in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. They are proof that loyalty can transcend death, that devotion can overcome any obstacle, that the Emperor's servants will continue their duty regardless of what personal cost such service might demand. Whether they represent the Firehawks, transformed by divine intervention, loyal Space Marines preserved by warp phenomenon, or something else entirely, they embody the absolute pinnacle of what it means to serve the Emperor. They have given not just their lives, but their very existence to the cause of protecting humanity from the forces that would destroy it. Their story reminds us that in a universe where death seems to offer the only escape from endless conflict, some souls choose to continue fighting regardless of personal consequence. They prove that courage, faith, and determination can overcome even the fundamental boundary between life and death. The Legion appears when hope seems lost, fights battles that cannot be won through conventional means, and vanishes when their purpose is complete. They are the Emperor's response to humanity's darkest moments, proof that divine justice operates even in a universe that seems to have abandoned justice entirely. In the grim darkness of the far future, where there is only war, the Legion of the Damned reminds us that some warriors refuse to let death end their service. They are eternal guardians, spectral protectors, proof that loyalty sufficiently pure can transcend every limitation and overcome every obstacle. Whether they are blessed or damned, saved or lost, transformed or preserved, they remain what they have always been. Space Marines serving the Emperor with perfect dedication. Death has not ended their vigil, it has perfected it, creating warriors whose service will continue as long as the Imperium needs protection, and the Emperor's will requires champions. This is the Lorelord, and remember, in a universe where heroes fall and empires crumble, where the greatest warriors eventually meet their end and the mightiest champions are forgotten, some refuse to accept defeat. The Legion of the Damned proves that death is not the end of service, but its ultimate expression, that true loyalty burns eternal, and that the Emperor's warriors will fight on regardless of what form that fighting takes. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep exploring the deep lore of your favorite universes. In the end, understanding those who serve beyond death might be the key to understanding what service truly means and what it costs to be worthy of eternal duty. The Emperor protects, and sometimes his protection comes from warriors who refused to let death stop them from answering the call.